You say you want happiness, yet you run the moment it appears. Because pain is familiar and happiness demands change. People often find pain more reliable than happiness because pain is predictable. We more or less know when it will arrive, how it will feel, and which empty spaces inside us it will touch. Pain does not surprise us, it announces itself clearly. Happiness, on the other hand, is quiet. It does not arrive with noise or demand attention. It simply appears, briefly, and if it goes unnoticed, it fades away. Perhaps this is why the human spirit does not fully trust happiness. In Dostoevsky's world, people grow accustomed to suffering, but they never quite believe in joy. Happiness makes people vulnerable. When someone is in pain, they become alert. They withdraw, protect themselves, and keep distance from the world. In moments of happiness, that distance disappears. A person opens up. And opening up always carries the risk of being hurt. This is why happiness, even when subtle, feels threatening. Pain hurts, but its borders are clear. Happiness has undefined boundaries, and uncertainty is something humans deeply fear. So here is the question you must ask yourself. When everything in your life seems to fall into place, do you truly relax? Or does an inner restlessness appear? A quiet suspicion that this calm will not last, that something is about to go wrong? According to Dostoevsky, this feeling is no coincidence. When people approach happiness, they often retreat. Because happiness is not as innocent as it seems. It demands something in return. That price often goes unnoticed. Happiness makes it harder for people to lie to themselves. In suffering, darkness can be justified. Anger, jealousy, resentment, all of it can be hidden behind pain. But in happiness, these shadows become more visible. A person is forced to ask, if everything is fine, why do I still feel this way? And it is precisely at this point that people begin to push happiness away. Dostoevsky sees human beings as prisoners of their own inner conflicts. People claim they want to be happy, yet they resist the order, stability, and acceptance that happiness requires. Happiness is balance. And balance makes people uneasy, because balance reduces inner conflict. And when conflict disappears, many people feel insignificant. Those who believe suffering makes them profound often fear that happiness will make them shallow. This is a fundamental misunderstanding. Pain is mistaken for depth. Yet most of the time, pain is nothing more than a habit. Dostoevsky's characters live inside this habit. They fear losing their unhappiness because unhappiness has become their identity. A suffering person feels exceptional, even to themselves. A happy person, by contrast, fears becoming invisible. That is why Dostoevsky's characters often defend their suffering. For them, pain is not a temporary condition but a permanent state. Pain creates distance from the world. That distance offers protection, but it is also a prison. And once someone becomes used to that prison, they no longer wish to leave, even when the door is open. The world outside is unknown, and the unknown feels more frightening than captivity. Consider the narrator of Notes from Underground. He is given countless opportunities to escape his misery, yet each time he pulls back. Pain is his last remaining proof of freedom. If he were to heal, he would have to explain himself, his choices, his mistakes, his failures. Suffering spares him that responsibility. Pain covers everything. According to Dostoevsky, human beings sometimes act directly against their own interests simply to prove they are free. Logic offers paths that could lead to happiness, but people often rebel against logic. Because logic makes them predictable. And humans hate being predictable. They are willing to pay for unpredictability with pain. This idea is disturbing because it is familiar. People sabotage relationships for no clear reason. They create crises during peaceful periods. They withdraw just when things are going well. These are not accidents or external forces. Deep down, people do not trust peace. Because peace disrupts the stories they tell themselves. Pain keeps those stories alive. It allows people to say, I am like this because these things happen to me. That sentence explains everything. In happiness, that explanation disappears. People can no longer justify why they still feel incomplete. And that confusion is often harder to endure than suffering itself. Dostoevsky reminds us that humans are not purely logical beings. We actively resist logic because logic forces us to face ourselves. Pain delays that confrontation. It numbs awareness while offering shelter. That is why some people refuse to heal. They show their wounds, but they do not allow them to close. They repeat their past endlessly but never move beyond it. The wound becomes their story. And without that story, only silence remains. Silence is something humans deeply fear. Silence leaves no one to blame, no noise to distract, no past to hide behind. In silence, a person stands alone with themselves. According to Dostoevsky, this is what people truly run from, being alone with who they are. Pain postpones that moment. As long as someone suffers, there is always something to explain, something to analyze, something to revisit. Pain fills the inner void. That void is painful, but it is familiar. Silence, however, exposes the emptiness itself. And most people lack the courage to look directly at it. In Dostoevsky's world, people avoid accepting their inner contradictions. They want happiness but reject the responsibility it brings. They want freedom but cannot tolerate the uncertainty that freedom requires. So they choose chaos. Chaos feels safer than clarity, because clarity forces decisions. And decisions are frightening. Once a decision is made, other possibilities vanish. Suffering allows people to delay life indefinitely. They say, it's because of circumstances, or now is not the right time. But in silence, these excuses lose their power. Not choosing becomes a choice. One of humanity's greatest illusions, Dostoevsky suggests, is the belief that suffering equals honesty. In reality, pain often becomes the most convincing lie. It immobilizes people. It creates the feeling of depth without transformation. People believe they are thinking, growing, progressing, while in truth, they remain still. That is why some people tell the same story for years. The same disappointments, the same resentments, the same sentences. Only the tone changes. Over time, pain becomes identity. What someone calls who I am is often a wound they refuse to leave behind. At that point, people no longer experience pain, they protect it. Happiness threatens this protection. Because when happiness arrives, the old story collapses. A painful question emerges: why did I live like this for so long? This question weighs more than suffering itself. It forces people to confront lost time. And few are willing to do that. This is why happiness can trigger guilt. When people feel happy, they sense that their past suffering might have been meaningless. And according to Dostoevsky, many prefer to keep suffering rather than admit that their pain may have been endured in vain. Here lies a subtle trap. People think they fear pain, but what they truly fear is lightness. Lightness leaves nothing to hold on to. Humans are used to weight. They know who they are under their burdens. When the burdens disappear, identity becomes uncertain. Dostoevsky's characters stumble here. They desire freedom, yet cannot tolerate the emptiness freedom brings. Pain fills that emptiness. The constant inner dialogue, the restlessness, the self-conflict, all of it exhausts them, but it also makes them feel alive. Silence exposes the nakedness of existence. Perhaps this is why people retreat just as healing begins. When everything calms down, panic quietly appears. Something feels missing. What is missing is pain. People believe they cannot know themselves without suffering. Yet perhaps pain is the greatest barrier to self-knowledge. Dostoevsky offers no clear answers. He only hints at a troubling idea. Clinging to pain feels like depth, but true courage may lie in letting go of pain and enduring silence. Because in silence, there is nowhere to escape. Only the self remains. There is one more shadow. Many people do not believe they deserve happiness. This belief often lives beneath awareness, fed by guilt, shame, and suppressed anger. People punish themselves. They choose the wrong paths, the wrong loves, the wrong decisions. Because somewhere inside, happiness feels like a crime. Suffering gives life a sense of meaning. In pain, people reflect and feel important. In happiness, that intensity fades. So suffering is labeled deep, while happiness is dismissed as shallow. But perhaps this is only a defense. Perhaps happiness is belittled because its simplicity is unbearable. Now imagine this. You wake up tomorrow and everything that causes your pain is gone. The past no longer weighs on you. The future no longer frightens you. Would you truly feel peace? Or would restlessness slowly return? According to Dostoevsky, most people experience the latter, because problems become the foundation of existence. Without problems, emptiness appears. And emptiness is more frightening than pain. Pain can be felt. Emptiness is silent. It gives no instructions. It leaves you alone with yourself. If these thoughts feel familiar, do not rush to answer them. Do not defend yourself. Simply notice. When do you push peace away? When do you think, this is too good to be true? Perhaps the obstacle to happiness is not life itself, but you. Dostoevsky does not conclude. He only whispers an unsettling possibility. Even when choosing pain, humans believe they are free. But perhaps this choice is the deepest bondage. And perhaps true freedom begins only when pain is released. So here is the final question. If one day the door to a truly happy life opened before you, and to step through it, you had to leave your pain behind, would you really walk through that door?